Look at this cool, huh? It's like a f***ing James Bond movie. Do you know what it is? Or maybe you'd like to know how the f this shit works. And in general, what the heck we do have in here. And this one, in particular, is made out of metal. But do you want to know more about this shit? Do you want to know how it works? What types of glasses and what types of apertures do we have in lenses? And maybe you have some problems with your lens. Maybe you want to know a little bit more about errors that they might have. All these in today's episode of... So lens is just a tube filled with glass, basically. And how does it work? If we just cut it in half, we will probably see lens, then some other lens, then some aperture, and then some few more lenses, because why not? And that's more or less how your lens looks inside if we would cut this through. So I've mentioned we have different types of lenses within the lens. So the first one, we're gonna have the double convex lens. So what these lenses do, they are bending light in a specific way. So it would condense it into one spot. But that's not the only one that does this, because if we would just cut this bitch in half, we will have partially convex lens, and that will kind of do the same job as with the double convex lens, but because it's like cut flat, the light bends even more, condensing it into like singular spot. We also have one that's like really bendy, and that one will be positive. And in here we will get the light from more spaces, but at the end of the day, or rather I should say at the end of the glass, we will have the same type of focus for light. But those are lenses that more or less focus light in one spot. We also have lenses that do the opposite. So they do spread the light around. And these mofos help you zoom onto stuff. So that one is also double. But this one, since it's concave shaped, you guessed it, it's gonna be called concave lens. When it will get the light inside, it will spread it around. Alright, we can also cut this bitch in half and we will have the same shtick but concave. And then if we have positive, we also have to have negative, so the fucking universe is even or whatever the fuck. And of course, both of these bad boys also split the light around. Then we also have negative, which will allow the light to spread a little less. Same with positive, so here we have like medium, we can say. Here we have large because it bends the light suddenly, and positive and negative are small, we can say, because they don't do that as much. They just bend light delicately. So if we have this fucking thing and we would take few random glasses like that, and here I'm just eyeballing, so shut up if it's not like proper lens or something. Still, for the shit we're doing is enough. Okay, so this is your stupid fucking lens. Usually it does have like aperture somewhere in there tucked. Say it's more of a fisheye type of shit. So this, then it gets bounced out and out again. So like this, and then it gets when it needs to, which is a focal point in here. Usually your matrix or your film sits exactly in that spot in order to have everything, you know, sharp and shit. But if we talking about like zoom lenses, for example, these lenses can shift. So each of these is capable of moving back and forth, bending the light in like different ways, zooming in and out, or also sharpening, because movement of the lenses is also responsible for sharpening. And if you have like image stabilization inside your lens, they will also move up and down sometimes as like this anti-shake movement. Alright, but I've mentioned this thing that's jammed in there, aperture.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
And aperture is a hole or an opening through which light travels. It affects the brightness and the quality of the image, and it's usually made out of these like sharp plates like that, and the number of these plates corresponds to bokeh. So basically, more plates equals better background blur. This is what your phone is trying to replicate so hard. But it's also why if you see two lenses that might look literally the same, one of them might be more expensive, it's because it might have more of these plates. But also basically goes from huge opening all the way to the smallest ones, and that will be opened. So if you go up, gradually going up means you're closing the hole. And the first time I was like learning this, I was like, this doesn't make fucking sense. How the hell? Smaller hole means more. But it kind of makes sense now, because the higher the number, less light it allows. The best is to show you that through percentages, basically. So let's start with 1.4, and let's assume this is 100% of light. So we have something called full stop aperture. Full stop or full f-stop is exactly 50% light. So it's easier to calculate your exposure while taking the photo. And you know, it's always easier to round up and go by like 50%, so by half. Easier, faster calculating on the spot, and you don't even have to know maths that well. But let's go back to our percentages thing. So if we will close up our aperture and go to another full stop, which is f2, that will be exactly 50% light. So half the light, as mentioned. And our next full aperture is 2.8, and that will be 25%. Yay, you're so smart. Then we go to 4, which is another full 12%. Yay. Then let's go to 5.6, which is at around 6%, and f8, which is 3%. And these two are fucking OGs. So basically, if you start taking photos anywhere, you start either from 5.6 or from f.8, because that will help you to assess what you need in a photo. So if you need more bokeh, so more beautifully blurred background, you will open up your aperture. So we will go in that direction. More opened up, more light, brighter the picture will be, but also more beautiful bokeh. If we go up, on the other hand, like f11, 1.5%, then we have f16, 0.7%, and let's do 22 because I don't want to go all the way to like 0.3%. And this will be the sharpest image. So if you want extra sharpness or HDR, you would go up from 8, right, all the way to like 32. And if you're thinking like, wait a moment, but how the heck I'm supposed to take a photo on f16 with 0.7 light? Isn't that impossible? Well, the picture will be dark as fuck. It will probably won't work right away, but we also have ISO and shutter speed, both of which we will be discussing in further episodes of. But for now, we're finishing lenses, aren't we? And the lens aperture, as you probably noticed already, is usually specified as in f number. And f number is the ratio of focal length to effective aperture diameter. So basically, you have to look at how long it is, and then look at how big hole is, and then take both sizes into calculation. And each lens usually has a set of f-stops on it, full f-stops, those that you see on the screen now. And this 50% is one f-stop or f number. But how did we figure this out? So basically, we take factor of 2 square root and multiply it. So f2 times square root of 2, more or less 2.8. f2.8 times 2 square root, bam, around 4, right? So these numbers here aren't that random as they might seem. So if we would be talking purely mathematical, I guess, and every single lens has its own best aperture number that it will work the best for said lens. And it's usually the middle number, so in between 5.6 and 8 usually. But we have one last topic that I would like to cover in regards to the lenses themselves, which is first on the list. It will be aberrations. And here we have two different ones. So first one is spherical. Some lenses have the spherical aberrations built in as for aesthetics, like for example, fisheye lenses. But if you have it and you aren't supposed to have it, it's probably the convex lens that does this shit inside, and has a lot to do with the quality of the lens itself, but nothing that the regular grinding can fix. Alright? Then we have chromatic aberration. And this is basically dispersion of light into two types of wavelengths. So we have long wavelengths that are usually represented by red, and short, which is usually blue or green, depending on the lens and on the photo. But this one, let's say we have our lens here, and white light goes in and it splits the light. We have red light and we have blue or green light on the other side. So if we would have our normal sticky guy, while shot on the lens with the chromatic aberration, we would see red on one side and blue on the other side, like this. And if you see this, it means something's wrong with the lens. It usually shows up on the tree branches in the corners of your photos, but that's kinda normal because, well, it's corner of your photo, what the fuck you expect? It's where the lens bends the light the most, so it usually happens there. But if it happens normally, like all the fucking time, then there's a one simple fix, which is just adding an extra additional lens. And then we also have distortions. And here I'm just gonna give you a fix right away, because usually we can fix it or adjust the distortions, and we can achieve that by adding lens or a glass to our lens. Okay, so let's assume this will be our normal view, not distorted, and then let's go to our first distortion, which will be bendy, and that is called convex distortion. So it's bending outwards like this. So if it's a convex, there also has to be concave. The one goes bendy inwards. But with these two, besides adding a lens, the best, easiest, and most common fix for this is just to either adjust your zoom on your lens or do one step forward or one step backwards. Why? Well, it's the best seen in, like, if you try to take a photo of a painting in a museum, and if you stay too close to it, it will be concaved. And if you move too far away from the painting and start zooming onto it with your lens, you will have more of a convex type of look. So as mentioned, usual and the most popular fixes are just take a step back, you fucking idiot. And also you might encounter shit that's like distorted as fuck, like everywhere, like everything looks weird as hell. So usually there's no fix for that, so go and grab yourself another lens most probably, or if there's a fix, it's more expensive than new lens itself. So yeah. And last but not least, vignette. This is basically like dark corners in your photo. And it's an error, it's a distortion, it should not be happening. Some people use it as like an effect, and I'm disgusted by it. But causes usually is the UV cap, so this plastic thing that when you have it on your lens, people just assume you're a professional photographer for some fucking reason. So if your lens has one of these, then you probably might end up with vignette. But well, I think every single software for photo editing has vignette built in. That's why people think it's a aesthetic thing, I guess. But also, it allows you to fix vignette pretty much anywhere. On the other hand, if you don't have this, and this appears, for example, in a studio while using the lamp, then it means your lamp isn't properly synchronized with your camera, and you should check that immediately, because, well, why edit all the photos if you can just fix sync with the flash lamp? If you enjoy content like this and you want to learn more about photography, how it works from like basically within, then you can subscribe to the channel. If I missed something important that you feel should be included in the video, or should I include in next videos, then you can leave comments about this shit. You can also watch the other videos from the series, and